Greetings, my children. Home is where the heart is. A man's home is his castle. Home is supposed to be where you feel the safest, where the heart is. But what if home is one of the most terrifying places on earth? What if home is not a place of comfort, but a place of pain? What if your home had a history to it? What if your home was a house of pain? They always ask, if walls could talk, what would they say? What if they don't say anything at all? What if they scream? What if they tell you of the horrors that occurred within those walls once long ago? Much like the tales within this book. Yes, The Other Side. Check it out. It's available on Amazon and the Citadel. But tonight, my children, I want you all to join me as we take up residence in some of the worst homes that this world has ever seen. Our first entry brings us to the land, one of the most infamous places, thanks to Marie Laveau, the infamous voodoo queen. We come to New Orleans. For all you true crime buffs, you might actually want to tune into this episode. She orchestrated a torture chamber for enslaved people at the Royal Street Mansion in the early 1830s. Of course, it wasn't long before she was caught and brought to justice. However, justice or not, unfortunately, the victims, which were many, they have not found peaceful repose. And so because of this, pedestrians and passers-by have heard shouts, moans, and weeping. And some have even claimed to see apparitions of the tortured faces of those slain. However, none of this, of course, have deterred either wealthy buyers or just daredevils like none other than 2009's when Ghost Rider himself, Nicolas Cage, had bought and owned it before closing in 2009. And today, the deed to the Lalaurie mansion is owned by an oil tycoon. Why he thinks he's gonna strike oil in a place where there's so many people had to suffer. Our next entry brings us to the town just south of me, actually. So this one will be an interesting one. And the land's known for its cheap it's cheaper gas in comparison to my town. We travel to Beaufort Castle in South Carolina. In Beaufort, its most recognizable antebellum mansion is also its most haunted. Construction before it began in the 1850s. Well, I can see where this is going. It was only partially finished though in that time, and when it was commandeered in 1861 as a Civil War military hospital, the outlining behind the house served as the hospital morgue, and the bodies were rumored to be interred on the home's extensive grounds. Once the house finished construction following the end of the Civil War, that's when the supernatural sightings began. Among the spirits occupying the property is Gosh, a French dwarf jester who came to the area in the 16th century. In the past, he joined a young girl who lived in the home for tea parties and wandered the grounds in full sight of the gardeners and visitors. While Beaufort Castle is privately owned, it occasionally opens for tourists and events, should you want to see this blood-soaked oak monument for yourself. The next entry brings us to Kansas. And, well, in this instance, you might wish you weren't in Kansas anymore, Toto, because our next entry brings us to the Sally House. The Sally House in Atchison, Kansas, was the home of a 6-year-old girl who, at one point, died after a botched appendectomy procedure. And this was done without anesthesia, too. So, in the late or mid-90s, a family who lived in the Sally House documented their experience on the TV show Sightings, where they reported flying objects, frequent apparitions, and a mix of scratching, gouging, and shoving, all mainly directed at the house's male owner, the head of the home. It is now vacant, but a popular site for paranormal researchers, ghost hunters, and it's said even regular civilians can actually reserve a stay at the house for about $100 per person. A botched appendectomy procedure on a 6-year-old without the use of anesthesia. I bet the walls of that house truly are screaming. In the comments section, type #WallsScream so that I can see you. Our next entry brings us to San Jose, California, home of the gun that won the West, the Winchester repeating rifle. Yes, the Winchester Mystery House, where Sarah Winchester's husband developed the first Winchester rifle, a decision that would come back to haunt Mrs. Winchester, literally. After her husband and young daughter sadly met their demise, the widowed Sarah consulted a spiritualist who alleged that the family was haunted by Native Americans who likely fell thanks to her husband's new invention, as well as slain Civil War soldiers, and others who were killed by the Winchester rifle. She was recommended to use her $20 million inheritance to try and build a home to appease these spirits. And what began as an 8-room farmhouse was further converted for 26 years between 1886 and 1922 into a 160-room mansion with 2,000 doors, all to confuse and or house or bunker away pursuing spirits. And something of note is that it was this very home that inspired the 1955 or 56 novel that has been labeled as a staple of horror literature. Yes, my children, I'm talking about none other than Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. Whatever haunted, whatever walks in that house, walks alone. Now, far from being the only one that has inspired multiple novels and films of its account, no, our next entry tops even in the Winchester Mystery House. And come now, you didn't think I was going to leave this one off the list? No, my children, you knew this was coming. You see, in New York, there stands a home that was both the site of a grisly murder as well as the site of multiple hauntings. 112 Ocean Avenue. Yes, the Amityville House. In 1974, it all began when young Ronald Old Butch DeFeo Jr. At 3:30 a.m. went throughout the house, armed with a shotgun, and executed each of his family members. He was brought to justice, and in court he testified that the demons made him do it. The demons that haunted that house. Obviously, the courts didn't buy it. And neither did the public at large until the next tenants, the Lutz family, decided to purchase the home. And they did so as a way to start their new family. But it's famous that the Lutz family only stayed 28 days, in which many poltergeist reports came out, and after which the Lutz family fled, leaving all of their belongings behind and supposedly never returning for. And afterwards, several paranormal investigators, including, of course, the ever-infamous dynamic duo, Ed and Lorraine Warren. But now, here's where things get tricky. Much like the tale I told you of the Flying Dutchman, only half of this story is rooted in There was a murders that occurred on 112 Ocean Avenue in 1974, and it was by Ronald DeFeo Jr., and he did testify that it was under paranormal or demonic influence. And it is true that the Lutz family moved in only about a few months to a year after the trial went public. However, what was said to occur during the Lutz family stay has been subject for much debate. I'm sure we are all by now familiar with Jay Anson's ever infamous novel account of George Lutz's testimonies. However, what may not be quite as known was that George Lutz himself also published a novel essentially recanting everything. So, and it's also worth noting that, once again, the dynamic duo and Lorraine Warren have also always been subjects of controversy regarding the legitimacy of their investigations and their claims. But, nevertheless, as I've said, the Amityville house has been the subject of many novelizations and film adaptations. So, and even if the paranormal accounts surrounding the house weren't true, what Ronald DeFeo Jr. did in that house leading up to the events are worth noting. In the comments section, tell me, do you think there's any truth in stories surrounding 112 Ocean Avenue? And why? How did you enjoy your stays in these homes, my children? Was it fun? Were you comfy? Did the spirits keep you company? Yes. As always, I must thank Travis Bruce and the Horror Realm for allowing me to take you on this little journey and give you these extended stays in these haunted homes. And if you would like to find me, my children, you can of course find me on Facebook under my name, Thomas Stewart, or you can follow my Corpse Child Sanctuary Facebook page. You may find me on Instagram at CorpseChild2001, and you can find me on Facebook, or on TikTok and Slasher at Unholy Corpse Child. And of course, you may decide to join me in the sanctuary at www.corpsechildsanctuary.com, where you can find everything you need to know about me, and you can join my email list for a free Tome of Terror. And you may decide to visit the Citadel, where tomes of terror much like this one, ones that also involve haunted walls that scream, are available for purchase, where the ebooks are cheaper than Amazon, and the paperbacks come signed along with a bookmark and a custom hand-drawn art print from the hand of the unholy himself. Until next time, my children.